The sacrifices that he's made just based on sheer will. I didn't even know the value of them until I kind of got in his place and had to run the family business and
you was like,
understand how much
wow.
it took. Yeah, I mean, and I don't say this in any snarky way. I'm saying this just in comparison to my dad. Like my dad, he moved countries before he ever finished high school.
What's up, everybody? Back again on Tre'd Talk. If you didn't know, now you know. And if you knew already, tell someone else about this show right here, man. Today, I've got a special guest. He's a close friend of mine, best friend of mine. His name's Elee Khalil. Say what's up, Elee.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
It's a pleasure for me to have my friend here, man, because we've been friends for a very long time now. But also with that said, this man is a first-generational American. And not on top of that, man, his dad came over here from Syria, correct? From Syria, man, and wasn't originally a contractor. Started as a mechanic, but got into the contracting field, and now that's your full-time job. So, Elee, tell the world a little bit about you, where you're from, how you did it, and how they got here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a solid intro right there. Born and raised in Pittsburgh, first-generation American. My dad came from Syria in '77. My dad did a little bit of everything. He's, you mentioned it, you hit the nail on the head. He's a mechanic by trade, but he did a bunch of stuff for quite some time before that. He was part of the laborers union. He was a integral part of a company that did painting on like real big fixtures or real big, not fixtures, that's not the right word. I don't know what you technically call like the water tower buildings. That looks like a big lollipop on those buildings or structures, we'll call it. He did quite a bit, and then as time passed, being an immigrant, not having any kind of degree, not really knowing how to speak English that well, he learned kind of part-time between working to survive and then going to school and trying to learn the language, working and going to school to learn, how to be a mechanic, licensed mechanic, that kind of thing. He started realizing that he had to do a little bit of extra work on the side to set himself up for the future and for his family for the future, being a little bit disadvantaged in that area. So he started buying houses. He bought his first house in '82 or '83 in Oakland, right on Myron Avenue, the house I lived in. You know what I'm talking about. And then quickly realized that houses need worked on. And he started learning the trades by necessity. Couldn't afford to pay someone to do it, but also knew that he'd hold them long term, so he couldn't afford to do hack job-esque work. So back then, Oakland was a immigrant town or neighborhood, we'll call it. So a lot of Italians, a lot of Arabs, a lot of different people migrating from other countries to the States. And so my dad learned how to do things by guys that were seasoned in the trades. My dad, for example, split up the electric and added different services per floor, all with the help and the knowledge that he got from at that point, 40-year electrician. That was an Italian gentleman that lived down the street from them. Did the same thing with, I'll shout them out, Albert Shuley Plumbing. Shuley taught my dad a lot of different stuff whenever my dad wanted to divide all the utilities, the gas for all his houses, that kind of thing. And he learned that out of necessity, and I learned it out of proxy. Just by needing to help my dad and growing up. My dad's an older gentleman. He didn't have me until he was 37, so he put in his time and got old. Really wore down his body prematurely in his life from working so hard. And then luckily and unluckily, we'll call it, I got kind of pulled into it. Unluckily at the time because, it's hard work on your body, and I started young in my life helping him out. But luckily because it's how I make a living now. Big portion of how I make a living, and I'm blessed to say that I learned from a gentleman that very few and far between did it the right way, especially landlords. Everyone knows landlords are synonymous with hacks. There's no reason to even lie about it.
Right.
The landlord special or the handyman special. So I was really blessed with that, and took the things he taught me, took the things I learned from other gentlemen and ladies in those respective trades, whether it was electrical, plumbing, that kind of thing. And of course, I don't touch anything I had to do licensing for when it comes to doing any work for any clients or anything like that. I work within the confines of the law, but really develop my knowledge and understanding systems and houses and as a system, that kind of thing, by way of also kind of learning how to necessity, how to proxy, help my dad.
So I call him Amu. Amu means uncle, you feel me? So Amu came over here along with your mother. You were the first generation, right? And then they handed you the keys and was like, listen, we got a lot of things we got going on. Sorry to say it to you, bud, but you got to handle it, right? So tell people about that experience, especially doing it from college, because I was there for that, right? So tell them about going through college, learning the new business, learning the new trades, right, and trying to keep up so the family's business can grow. Because we have a lot of people who watch this who own family businesses, right? And some of them are very successful, but some people are also having a tough time. You know what I mean? And you're, for the most part, a one-man wrecking crew, right? So give people a little bit of information about what you've had to go through and what you've done.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it's very true. Everything you kind of just said about being a one-man show has had to be the case for quite some time. So I didn't ever expect to be in the position right out of college to be handling everything for my parents' properties. That kind of hit me by surprise. Long story, very, very, very long story short, I had a 5-year plan out of college with a totally different career path, and one that was very lucrative and one I had actually had some experience in to know it was the real deal. Don't even care to get into that. And at this point, I was managing my parents' properties for quite some time. Managing only in terms of the white-collar stuff, leasing, doing the ads and renting, showing the apartments, being the person that was in contact and the point of contact for our tenants, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I helped my dad, but I was by no means the head of the operation when it came to that. And then I think you walked 2 days after I did the first time. I walked April 26th, 2019. I found out my dad was leaving the country and going back to Syria for 6 months to finish. Well, I didn't even know it was for 6 months. I knew it was going to be a while. He was leaving May 5th, 2019. And I only found that out April 5th, 2019. So I had a month to the day to figure out how to run this whole show, all the ins and outs. White collar stuff, and more than anything, what we're going to talk about, the blue collar stuff too, because there were a lot of quirks and existing issues that I definitely had to not only work through, but sometimes completely rework in some of the properties that my dad had to kind of brief me on. And that was not an easy road at all, especially being a son and having to be an overachiever. The first son, the one dad's counting on, the one that wants to send dad off and let him spend 6 months overseas and come back and find everything taken care of 100%. That wasn't easy. And there were a lot of sleepless nights, both in terms of stress and tossing and turning in bed and literally working in our properties overnight until the sun came up.
Right.
And some things, I encountered a lot of things with my dad, but in the past, because I wasn't the main guy on scene, there's a lot of things I didn't learn. A lot of things I was a helper for.
Right.
Those roles quickly switched, and I had to learn everything I could and take information and soak up every ounce of information I could, like that. I mean, I had no choice.
Right. So let's talk about this, man. Like you said, bro, you had to learn on the fast. You had to learn on the quick, right? So there's a lot of things that you didn't know, but let's even get into the business side of things, because for the most part, the trade you can kind of pick up by being around, right? But the business part, man, like you said, your dad's not originally from this area, right, or from the States, so you had to learn a lot of the business aspect of things as well on your own. So let's talk about that a little bit. From your perspective, right, being inside of business, right, as a young guy, as a young kid, trying to figure out marketing, advertisement, as well as how to deal with clients and whatnot, what was the most difficult part for you growing through the company?
That really wasn't growing through my parents' business. That was more so came after, when I got everything locked down in place for my parents' business and branched off to do my own thing. When I took over the properties from my parents, there were a lot of growing pains. And when I took over my parents' properties, there were a lot of growing pains.
Right.
But things were pretty streamlined in terms of being systematized there. I just had to make it work.
Right.
Once I got everything, I got our vacancy down to 0%. I got everything fixed and even, newly renovated to get longevity in terms of quick turnover with tenants, because if something's outdated, it needs redone. Once I got those things redone, and now it was just finding a new tenant, repairing any damages they did and left behind, and rinse and repeat, it was easy. So now I had the time to go do business on my own. That's where things got really difficult, because I never had anyone to show me that.
Right.
My dad never did, truthfully speaking. He helped his uncles, that kind of thing. He helped a lot of family. He never did work for hire as a contractor for anybody.
Okay.
He never did any contracting work. And I knew I wanted to. I knew I had a skill set that was a little bit more diverse than most. In terms of people being in the trades, there's a lot of people that are specifically plumbers, a lot of people that are specifically electricians that guys like me absolutely need. But there's a lot of times where they could also need me, and I can make life easy on them, being able to realistically help them do whatever it might be that they're doing. If they're, for example, an employee at another company and working on for me on the side,
right,
and they don't have, let's say, a full-time employee to help them, being that I'm knowledgeable to an extent in their area, I learned to help them a lot and picked up a lot on the job like that. But you don't learn how to price out stuff doing that.
right.
You don't learn how to make things flow as a business in terms of how to not just estimate what things are going to cost, but present things to a potential client.
Right.
To help them understand that there's no lying about it. I mean, the trades are not a entirely honest business, or I shouldn't say that. The trades are honest work, but not everyone in them is
An honest
out
person.
there to do honest work and,
Right.
and be an honest businessman or businesswoman. And learning how to do that, build that trust in the clients, learning how to properly do estimates. So I hate, and it happens sometimes, but I hate readjusting estimates for clients. I think that I like to stand on my word, and in terms of everything I can control, I try to make sure that the estimate I submit is the estimate we stick to, right? Learning how to do that is what was tough. And that just honestly, I wish I had a better answer for you, but that came through trial and error. That came through trial and error. That came through picking the brains of those individuals that were licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, drywallers that do drywall for a living. There's stupid things, simple things, not stupid, that you would never think of, that I learned even from drywallers talking about how their prices change, however many floors up off the ground they have to hang drywall.
Right.
Stuff like that I don't think anyone really is. I know I'm for sure not smart enough to know on my own. I took my lumps in the beginning, but caring about what I was doing and working about it passionately, trying to make sure that when I came to a client, there was no guesswork involved. Because if you contract me, you hire me to work for you in a contracting capacity, no matter what it may be, you don't deserve for me to come in and be doing guesswork in your place. You want me to come wherever it might be, a business, your home, wherever, and know that you have 100% confidence that the person that's doing that job is confident in themselves based on 100% competence.
Right. And that's something that you really got to relate on a little bit, because to be honest with you, giving something to any leader is difficult, right? But also giving it to a competent leader is something that you have to look forward to, right? So you're dealing with the issues, dealing with the people, right? You got to be able to manage people being a leader, right? And that's something that is very difficult, especially when it comes to clients, but also when it comes to employees, right? And right now, you're technically a 1 to 2 man crew right now, looking to build in the future. What are some things that you're working towards and learning so that you could build that bigger crew?
That's a great question. I'm battling with that right now. I learned a lot from conversations over time, even just being around you, picking Brian's brain, that kind of thing. My goal right now, and it's actually all thanks to you, to Brian, to some of the other people that I've talked to at TPG, and other people in the trades. My cousin, Al Farah, shout out to Build 412. He is the utmost professional, and I mean, achieved more than I could have ever imagined. He's amazing. Pick his brain a lot. You know, I think I'm gonna have to change the trajectory of where my company's going now. I'm think I'm going to go more into the full-time remodeling and not new construction, but renovations, whether it be new construction or existing construction, remodeling business instead of what I'm doing now, which is specializing in diagnostic and service work.
Okay. What's making you make that change?
Being good at diagnostic and service work is a skill that not many people can attain. I wish I had a good answer as to tell you how I did it. I think it's just a knack. I naturally understand systems. My ADHD, which I'm sure people that listen to this podcast are going to pick up on me having. I got terrible ADHD, but it's a superpower when it comes to that because I like being detail oriented, that kind of thing. So it's worked for me, but it's not going to work for many. I can't trust many people to safely, effectively, and properly go into someone's home, diagnose a very unique issue that others can't diagnose or others can't put their thumb on, and then holistically, completely fix it from start to finish.
Right.
And that's very difficult to find people to do. I haven't found it yet, and it's you kind of hit a glass ceiling doing it, because I could make a fairly good living doing it, but I'm always going to have to do it. Or if I'm lucky, I may find 1-2 other people in my lifetime that are really good at doing it to the level that I care to have it done, that I could put my name on and my stamp of approval saying this was work done by Elee Khalil or my business.
Right.
It just seems like it's a much easier road to go down, to go straight into your standard typical renovation, remodeling, contracting, because there's a lot more people in those trades that you can also go to them being in their respective trades to execute whatever task it is.
Right.
And so although my business as a business model seems like it may be more lucrative in terms of the specific outcomes I can have, minimizing overhead, shrinking the operation, minimizing moving parts, and making a decent amount of money, that's all fine and dandy, but I think it's going to be something that has to reach an end for me to continue growing on the path that I want to, and actually being able to make something out of my skill set, and identifying that it might not be something very scalable.
No, for sure. And that's something that's difficult, because when you have a unique talent, it's hard to find other people to do that unique talent. You know what I mean? So maybe it comes down to you get into the remodeling situation, but you come in there and use your talent, and then you let the guys that are good at what they're naturally good at do their job, right? So that makes a lot of sense to me, man, in terms of building a business, and also building a business from necessarily the ground up, but building a business from the knowledge that you have as now a businessman, right? Because your knowledge is a little bit more profound than your father's, just due to the fact that you're just a little bit more Americanized, right? And your dad, it was a different time.
I have the internet.
You feel me? Like, it's a different time. Like, you got Chat GPT. You don't use it.
I'm not that good. I'm more analog than most people our age. I like working with my hands. I'm not good with technology. But there's a lot of things that also being interested in it full time, right? You got to remember, like I said, my dad did it out of necessity.
He didn't do it because he was interested in it.
I love it. Right. I love what I do. And it's another thing that kind of makes it a little bit painful to walk away from doing things with my own two hands. Not only do I love the process from start to finish and solving a problem no one else can figure out, I love doing it so well that it looks that other people in my line of work look at it and say, there's no way someone actually did this.
100%.
Or someone that isn't 50, 60 years old that's been in the trades their entire life didn't do this.
Right.
Being 26 and doing that and having those results in my work is incredibly, we'll call it fulfilling. Like, it makes me happy, you know what I mean? So that's also why I would say at this point in my career, there's a lot more that my dad knows about, specifically the diagnostic and service area of homes, being that he's worked in such old homes, new homes, completely near being condemned homes, all the way up to $1 million homes that were for family, right? That kind of thing. He knows more in that area, but in terms of the execution of the finesse and like the new tricks of the trade and the utilization of new tools and new technologies, I mean, I might be a little bit more well-rounded than him in those areas. It's only because I'm passionate about it. I do it for a living. I'm not a mechanic like he was. I love it. And so that's why I would say so at this point. Growing up with the internet, there's stupid little things that I pull out from my back pocket every day. Every day that I'm like, you know what, we were doing a deck at him and my mom's house, his and my mom's house, and A lot of the truck stacking that got delivered had a belly on it. It was bowed. And I was showing him how I tightened it up as a one-man crew. He was like, "Oh, I'll help you. I'll try to, push them down, or I'll use some kind of pry bar and a 2x4 to jam it down." I was like, "You don't need to. Just relax."
That was the first
and
time
what are you
you
talking
could
about?
step on him.
Yeah, like that was not the first time, but that was one of those times that he looked at me and said, "Oh, it's pretty neat."
Right.
And I used my speed square, put it in between the two boards that were already secured, to put a
Right.
clamp on the other side of it, tightened it all down, screwed it in. Everything was beautiful, kosher, great. There's stupid stuff like that I learned off the internet. I learned off of Instagram or TikTok, and I love being the one that receives that knowledge and spreading it. There's things like that nowadays make anyone that really is into the business 100% entirely capable of doing it and doing it well.
And that's what's crazy, man. I've known you for a long time now, so I know I get to see the differences between you and Amu, which is really cool, man. But what people don't know is that you look up to your dad extremely. You know what I mean? Just because of the strength he has as a man, but also the strength he has as a father, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about, like, the relationship that you have with Amu and how much to this day that you take the stuff that you've learned from him and apply it to your life.
I can't even quantify that. I'll be honest. I really can't. The things that I've learned from him go so much deeper than just the trades.
Right.
The things that I've learned from him go so much deeper than just life on a philosophical level. Like, I don't say this because he's my dad. This is something that's pretty well accepted amongst my entire family. Everyone that knows us. I have never met a human being that worked, and still to this day at his age, works as hard as he does. He is, in the truest sense of the word, like, not human. Like, I love that man, but knowing the sacrifices he made for myself, my brother, my mother, others in his family, even my mother's side of our family, the sacrifices that he's made just based on sheer will. I didn't even know the value of them until I kind of got in his place and had to run the family business and
you was like,
understand how much
wow.
it took. Yeah, I mean, I'm and I don't say this in any snarky way. I'm saying this just in comparison to my dad. Like, my dad, he moved countries before he ever finished high school, right? My dad came in 1977. He was 17 years old, never even graduated high school in Syria before his family migrated here. Like, my dad is not a strong reader or writer. He's the smartest, by far, person I have ever met in my life when it comes to the trades. The way his brain works is unreal, right? But he doesn't have the resources I have now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And for him to still make something out of his situation, out of all the uphill battles he was fighting and everything he did, there's a lot I could go into about what he's taught me and the things he's taught me, but I'd be cheating you if I even tried to now, because it would take us a 5-hour podcast to get into it.
I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I look up to Amu myself, man. I remember sitting down talking with him. One of the first things he said to me is, like, when you're gonna make a change, don't tell anybody. I had to sit there and think about it, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie. It took me a while. I'm sitting there thinking on it, bro. He said, when you're gonna make a change, don't tell anybody. I'm like, why? It's because people put expectations on you that are not yours. And when he said that, bro, I'm sitting there like, did he just give me game, bro? Like, gave me real game, and I'll never forget it because he blamed me for missing the exit. And
Sounds like my dad too.
He had to spin back around, man.
Definitely
But
your fault. Even though he was the one who was driving.
Even though he was driving, right, looked at the
No
exit
GPS,
and everything.
no GPS.
You
He
feel
knows
me?
where he's going. Yeah,
Knows where he's
still
going.
Your fault for sure.
And then we still got 20 minutes onto the. We ain't gonna talk about it, but ultimately, man, it was one of those things, man, where you sit there and you get the chance to learn from somebody who's not naturally from this culture, right? And then you get to see on what they had to go through to get comfortable. Let's just talk about that for a second. To get comfortable inside this culture, right? You're bilingual, maybe almost close to trilingual, you know what I'm saying?
2.5.
Two and a half. You know what I mean? But with that said, man, talk about being raised in a different culture inside the home, but then having to experience a whole other culture outside of the home.
I mean, we had growing pains as a family. It wasn't just me as a child as a product of the difference in culture. Like, just to give you an example, so my dad came in 77. My mom came in 92 whenever they got married. They got married overseas and came. My dad brought her with him to the States. Like, my mom, for example, she loves education, and she is a boss to the truest sense of the word. She really is. She got her own business. She got a doctorate. She's taught at I don't even know how many universities, even local high schools, North Allegheny, Baldwin, all over the place, right? We had growing pains as a family because adjusting to the culture here was a constant battle. In my parents' view of things, not only were they acclimating day to day. I mean, my dad's still acclimating to this day in this country, right? Same thing with my mom. But not only was it a process for them individually, it was a process for myself and my brother individually, and then the battle of them wanting us to stay true to our culture too, so that we couldn't change to the times as much as we wanted to in this culture. And them also loosening the reins a little bit and, you know, understanding we still had to fit in. We still had to get with the times a little bit, you know what I mean? So growing up in a household like that with a education nut mother and a tradesman father, with ugly duckling, you know, as being the older sibling, and then my brother never having an ugly stage in his entire life.
You
always
definitely
been handsome as hell.
Let me just let you know, we're gonna get a picture of you up on this podcast.
No, we are not. No, we are not.
Because my man definitely looked crazy.
Yeah, we're not
you
doing
glue
that.
up though.
No, I mean, I still ugly dude, but anything's better than what it was. You know, there were a lot of different different aspects to our lives that were more of a mindful process we had to think about than most people.
Right.
Most people going through day-to-day things as they grew up watching their parents do what they were doing, and then they just went and did the same thing and realized I don't like this.
And did something else.
We didn't have that, you know. My mom always wanted us to get an education. We did. I went and got college educated, got my degree. Woo, everything is fine and dandy. My dad did even more than my mom, but my mom pushed us more about the technicalities because that was her realm.
She was a teacher. She got
a teacher. That was her realm. But for example, the reason why I'm going on that tangent, just to mention that for a second, like my dad at the same time wanted us to grow up as men, and men in the traditional form, being useful, if you want to call it that, useful, and being able to take care of those around you in all the different fronts that traditionally speaking a man does. Right. So we have two parents where our dad is, you know, yelling at us for losing in wrestling. My mom is yelling at my dad for yelling at us and telling us it's okay. And then going to school the next day, doing 8 hours at school, coming home, my mom telling us to do your homework, and my dad saying, hey, you got to come help me with this. Come learn how to do this.
So you stuck in the middle.
You had to.
Right.
You had to make everyone happy somehow, and there was a middle ground, and I'm so thankful.
Right.
So thankful at this age for having done that, because there were days I hated my mom, and there were days I hated my dad. Some days I didn't want to go help him change a water heater, and some days I did not want to read that damn book. And it's made me really well-rounded overall. I'd like to think so. So I'm blessed to say that. I mean, I'm thankful for that opportunity.
I like to say you're pretty well-rounded, my boy. I mean, in school, we used to work extremely hard on education, and you would go home and be up all times of the night and working on the houses and the different houses that your pops had. But it's crazy to see you now, because now we're a little bit older, right? We're out of college, but you're still almost working 7 times as hard as you was working when you were in the college, right? So now that you're out of college, man, you're in this space, man. Where do you see this business going in the next couple of years?
Up. Sky high up. And the reason why I say that is not only am I utilizing those same resources I said my dad didn't to help their business, and taking that real estate portfolio, God willing, you know, things stabilizing the market a little bit, and utilizing my resources once again, just studying a little bit more about different philosophies and approaches in the real estate game. Not only will I be able to really, really trim the fat on the real estate portfolio and make it more efficient and expand our portfolio profitably, God willing, but also for myself. Doing a lot of those hours of research, not only on technically how to do things in the trades, and not only technically how to apply my skill when I'm working at people's homes, but also utilizing those same resources to learn the business end of things, how to expand, having those tough conversations with myself where I'm saying, you know, even though you really love doing this diagnostic and service work and kind of overachieving amongst your peers in that realm,
right?
Having that conversation with myself, realizing things do have to change and you got to make things happen a little bit. in a different manner than you might have expected to in the past. All those things together with my work ethic to kind of top it all off, and my honesty, and my character, my moral compass, I don't see myself having any problems expanding pretty quickly and pretty, for lack of a better term, we'll call it loudly. Really bringing my name to the scene the same way my cousin Al did, who I mentioned earlier, and allowing myself to, if all goes as planned and good God willing, allowing myself to use that same level of perfectionism and passion for the trades in a way that's a more profitable and sustainable business model.
Right. And I'm going to say this out now because, as you know, we got TCS, right? And I always try to get you to jump on board, and I'm still shooting for you to do it. So
Absolutely.
if you're seeing this, man, somebody help me get this man inside of TCS, man, because we're fighting to get him in there because it's hard to do a lot of things on your own, especially as an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? We talk about it so often here at TPG and then as well as in TCS. Being an entrepreneur could be very lonely just because there's not a lot of people who understand what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's this reality. Like it's hard. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm running a business, right? A lot of my friends are typically younger, especially in our realm, right? They're typically younger and they don't have that mindset or that want to go do that. They rather work under somebody or do something along those lines, right? Which myself, I also work for somebody, but it's a little bit different over here. You know what I mean? But ultimately, man, it's nice to see these people who are entrepreneurs, right, coming from all different realms of the country, right? Or Oregon, first of all, let's start there. Oregon, you know what I mean? Oregon, Virginia, Colorado, all these different places that these people are coming from, but they all have the same issues, right? And to some degree. They're like, man, I don't know what's going on here. I need something like this, man. They just need a space like how we did when we created the organization Love. Honest to God, just experiencing it and being a part of it, they did what we were able to do in college and amplified it. You know what I mean? When I say amplified it, brother, did it the right way. So for those of you who don't know, I created an organization with my friend over here, Elee, back in college. It was called Love, standing for Living Out Victoriously Every Day. With that organization, our goal was geared towards helping out student athletes through depression, injury, and anxiety through community, right? So I can't really say we made the change for these people. It was more so them wanting to make the change, and we just were able to be the people who led them into that change. Now with TCS, right, it fits so much. You see it and you feel it, right, on how these people come together. And sometimes it's not even about business. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like, bro, like I had a long day, bro, and you're the only other entrepreneur in my realm that actually understands on what I'm going through. Like for you, man, I'll never forget it, man. I don't know what you was working on, and I'm gonna give y'all a quick story about Elee here. We used to live together, man, and one day, bro, we have a group of dogs, right? We probably had 3 dogs in the house. One day I came home from practice, bro, and I'm like, yo, what's that smell, right? Like I'm sitting here thinking like, one of the dogs definitely just took a crap inside the house. Like, so I hit the corner, man, and my boy Elee, bro, is darker than me. Now, first of all, if you look at Elee is very fair-skinned. You understand what I'm saying? And I looked at him, I'm like, bro, are you playing a joke on me right now? Like, the boy looked like he was blackface, bro. I'm talking about there was poop, dirt, soot all over my man's body, right? Everywhere. And he just looked at me, bro, and he was just like, bro, I don't want to talk about it. And I'll never forget it because I'm just looking at him. I'm like, bro, you smell like the bottom of a garbage. You understand me? Like, you look crazy. You smelt crazy. Matter of fact, give your input on that situation so that people can understand what really happened to you. Because I remember you saying you got some of it in your mouth, and I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're stuck and you need help. Like I said, you learn these things out of necessity. So one thing my dad taught me how to do, probably entirely too young, was how to snake any kind of drain line, whether it was toilet, a sink, whatever. We were working on that sewer stack that day at the building on Brownsville Road, and very, very long story short, I get a call at like 8:30 p.m. from my tenant on the first floor saying, we'll just save the details, nasty stuff like coming up back through our tub, the toilet's backing up, the sinks won't drain.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, well, this is a bad situation. I called around to the other companies. No one wants to answer. No one wants to come after hours. I'm like, all right, looks like it's going to be a long night for me. So I know it's backing up not only into her apartment, but all the way up to the third, because the third was the problem child that we had been having some existing issues with previously.
Right.
Sorry, second floor, not third. So I go into the first, tell her, hey, everything's going to be all right. Take a deep breath. Try to go through her apartment first. Got her apartment clear. Beautiful. Go up to the second floor. That's clogged. Mm-hmm. I knew what the issue was, so I start going into the second floor toilet, trying to get that clean. I'm using a 1-inch snake at this point. Nothing is making it through this clog. I could not understand what it was. Still to this day, don't know what it was. Don't want to know. Because a lot of it got on me, whatever it was that day. So we went downstairs to the clean out, which there was no clean out. It's an old 5-inch cast iron stack. So we cut and made our own clean out before I ended up inevitably pulling out the whole thing and rerunning it ABS pipe. I think I did PVC, but that's besides the point. Made sure to put a clean out then, because I cut a hole in. I start snaking from the basement.
So you're snaking it this way?
Upwards, yes. Because I couldn't get through whatever it was coming down. It was something hard. I could hear my snake, the end. Yeah, I could hear. I had a spade bit on the end, like clanking against something. It's wrapping around it and clanking and clanking and clanking. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's softer on the underside. Much to my satisfaction and dissatisfaction, it was softer on the bottom end. And I busted through, and I don't want to know how many gallons of human excrement
rain down on me
everywhere.
Hey.
And it rained down on me everywhere. And then at that point, I had to keep snaking it. So the stuff you saw on my face was me really reaming out and cleaning out the inside of that pipe, that stack, and pulling the you use for a 1-inch. It's not in a like a canister or a roll, a drum, like the 1/2 inch. You've seen me use that one before. Right. A 1-inch comes in separate. A lot of people put them in tires, and it's like a coil, spring coil that comes in piece by piece as you pull it out.
Right.
So towards the end, especially when you still have, like I still had that spade bit on there, or I might have put like a spring coil on there to pull and grab whatever
all
it
that
was.
Stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what, boy, I pulled that sucker out, and my dad didn't let go of the clutch on our snake, and it was spinning, swinging. Everything that was stuck on that, it was a spring coil. It was a retriever bit, and it bit into whatever it was. I pulled it out, and it got all over me after everything else had already gotten all over me. And that's what that night you're talking about.
I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real with everybody that's on this camera right now. That was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever smelled in my entire life. So I can only imagine what you felt like when it hit you all in your face. Because me personally, bro, I'm too pretty for that. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm gonna keep it real, Stack 50 with you, Jesse. Jesse behind the boards. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, I got a lot of respect for contractors. Unfortunately, my contracting involves me speaking and only doing that. I'm not putting my hand in no sewer stack, cause it's just not gonna happen, bro. Because hey, listen, that was probably one of the worst smells I've ever smelled in my entire life, and I'm not lying when I said that. But most importantly, man, I want to thank you for coming on Tre'd Talk, brother. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk to my brother. You know what I mean? So I always am thankful that I can possibly bring somebody that I love onto my show. You know what I mean? So first and foremost, before we get up out of here, tell everybody where they can either A, find your service, or B, just find you in general. Because what y'all don't know is, and I'm going to put him on blast, he's my dog, right? Elee does not market his company well. But if you find him on TikTok, this man is a generational talent. But I'm going to let him decide whether or not he's going to tell you that. But ultimately, where can they find you, Elee?
First of all, that was a major over exaggeration of my capabilities. I don't market myself well, but I don't purposefully, because I don't want to turn clients away. It's hard to keep up with the influx of work that I have, because, like I said, I am the one that ends up doing most of the things myself most of the time.
One-man show.
So between my own real estate investing, I just closed on my third house on last Tuesday.
Appreciate it. No need for clapping. I just closed on Jesse, put the camera on me, Jesse. No. Jesse, put the camera on me, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. Yes, sir.
There's no need for all that. There's many people much more impressive than me. But, I just closed on my third on my own, so I have my own projects. I'm working on my parents a lot of the time, trying to make theirs better. Like I said, I want to make it more efficient, and trying to not only make ends meet and keep things running, but better the portfolio overall. On top of that, I'm very, very blessed, working with that integrity that you've seen me
100%,
preach.
100%.
I end up getting a lot of repeat business. So
Right.
a lot of the things a lot of the situations end up kind of panning out to where I start one project for someone, and 3 months later, I'm working for someone. I have been in Lawrenceville now since September. It was supposed to be a 10-day job. Here we are. I'm starting the last one mid-January.
It's crazy.
And I've been working there almost the whole time.
Right.
So it's really a blessing. I love being that valuable to others. I love making others happy and knowing that they can have confidence in someone they work with. But with that being said, I want to make sure that when I do it, I'm not rushed and I make a good impression on everyone. So
right.
I don't take on too much work at
Right.
one time.
You do it right.
I like
right.
to say I do it right. So I'm changing the name of the company right now. I was doing business as a Steel City handyman, but I don't like that term because I'm not a handyman. I am a general contractor. And so I want to get away from it. My grade of work is above that. I hate that term.
So tell him the name, Elee. Tell him the name.
The new name hasn't been determined yet. That's why I'm saying.
Okay.
that.
Tell them at least your Instagram page where they can follow you.
I don't. You know my Instagram handle?
If you don't tell these people in which
No, I really don't. I'm not joking.
it's like I don't even know how to say it.
I know my TikTok that you mentioned is your Arabic lessons. There's nothing to see on there.
There's
Please don't
Arabic.
go there. I haven't posted on there in a long time. I'm over that.
Jesse, go there right now.
TikTok did way too much in regulating what I was putting down, so they started threatening me with deleting my account and all this goofy stuff. So we're not going to talk about that. I only mentioned that because you did. I think my Instagram is still my last name backwards.
Yep.
Is it?
I think it's like little.
LILAHK 31.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is it.
Or one,
It is.
3-1 or
It is.
1-3, something like that. And I will be more than sure to update you when that new business name comes out. I got to finish all these projects for my existing clients and my own properties now before I put my name out there and really take on work full time, because I got to make sure all those existing obligations are stowed away. I want to be able to focus on any potential client's project, whatever it is I'm working on for them, 100% at the time. And I don't like spreading myself too thin. It makes for mistakes. It makes for less than perfect work.
Right.
So I'll be sure to keep you updated when that time comes. It's going to be another couple months before I kind of wrap up all those projects I have in the pipeline. And when we get there, I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated.
Say less, man. Well, hey, everybody. This has been Tre'd Talk. We appreciate you for paying attention and listening. So with that said, like, share, comment, and like I said before, if you didn't know, now you know. And if you already knew, tell somebody who doesn't know. Help us out. Get people's eyes on this podcast, man, because we love you just as much as we love you on Athletic Aesthetic, as much as we love you on the Brian Hess Show, Honey, I'm Home. Should I keep naming them? The TCS Pod. There's so many podcasts that you could catch us on One Team Media, as well as the Brian Hess channel. So this is Tre Tipton. I was about to say co-host as if I was on Athletic Aesthetic. Your host, Tre Tipton. It was nice talking to you. Nice seeing you. We're out of here.